G'day and welcome back to the channel, Ginger Ninja's Movie Reviews. I am the Ginger Ninja and these are my Franchise Friday movie reviews. Now if you're new to my channel, thank you very much for tuning in, stopping by and checking it out. And for my returning viewers, thank you very much for sticking with me as we made it through the Aliens franchise, for better or worse. And we're up to the most recent addition in the franchise, Alienromulus, which came out in 2024. So diving into it, we have this one directed by Fede Alvarez, which he is a phenomenal horror director. Like, one of my favorite remakes of recent years is the Evil Dead 2013 remake, which he directed. And that was just a blood-soaked nightmare. It was fantastic. The film stars
Caileespaeny, Davidjonsson, Archie Renault, Isabelmerced, Spike Fearn, Eileen Wu.
Plus, I guess you also have a bit of a cameo from Ian Holm. They do use that face swap AI de-ager thing on a android named Rook, which Ian Holm's face is because he was Ash. So yeah, surprising we don't see more of those models, you know. Anyway, the plot. While scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonists come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. Yeah. So Alien Romulus is the latest entry in the iconic sci-fi horror franchise, and it directly follows the events of Alien, but it's also prior to the events of Aliens. And it sort of marks a compelling return to the franchise's horror roots, steering away from the more loftier ambitions of, say, Prometheus and Covenant, and taking it back to the pulse-pounding terror of Alien. Now, with the acclaimed horror director Fede Alvarez at the helm, this film really embraces the franchise's horror roots while adding a modern edge, taking it back to what it was, and in my opinion, what was missing from the more recent adventures done by Ridley Scott. It's not to say they were bad, but Alien was about terror, and this has got that in spades. So without further ado, let's take a look at Alien Romulus.
Franchise Fridays on the screen, horror shows, zombies scream, vampires biting, shadows gleam, slasher delights in my dream. Shark master swims in fear, ghouls and ghosts, they appear. Sci-fi flicks, end is near. Join the horror, shed a tear.
So getting straight into the cast, and this is an ensemble cast, and it is very reminiscent of the original film. And what I mean by that is it is a cast of relatively unknown actors, and it works in favor of the film as there are no preconceived notions going in. You know, leading the film, we have caileespaeny as Rain, a resourceful and determined protagonist seeking freedom from the corporate servitude of weylandyutani. And her portrayal is, it balances vulnerability and steely resolve, and it evokes echoes of Sigourney Weaver's Ellen Ripley without feeling like a direct imitation. Davidjonsson plays Andy, a damaged android whose directive is to protect Rain, and that adds a layer of depth and melancholy to the story. And his performance between the later upgraded Andy and the bad joke-telling Andy that we're first introduced to, they're so far apart and well done. It's almost like they were played by two different actors. And that's very reminiscent to Michael Fassbender in Walter and David in Covenant as well. Like, the difference between the two characters they play is amazing. And for the same actor to do it, like, it looks amazing on screen. The supporting roles by Archie Renault, isabelmerced, Spike Fearn plays an arsehole really well, and Eileen Wu, they do add depth to narrative, but at times their roles feel like they're stereotypical rather than fully fleshed out personalities. You know, despite this, their commitment to the material and the palpable fear that they convey still sell the stakes effectively. So now on to the directing and writing. Fede Alvarez's direction is a major asset here. He knows how to craft suspenseful horror with claustrophobic tension by leaning heavily into the atmosphere of dread and isolation that made the original Aliens so effective. The writing is both a strength and a slight weakness, if I'm being honest. On one hand, the script does an admirable job of returning the franchise to its horror roots, focusing on survival and the xenomorphs as unstoppable predators. There's a visceral simplicity to the narrative that works, particularly in the film's relentless final act. However, some story beats feel overly familiar, relying heavily on the established alien formula, which can be a good thing or a bad thing because previously in, say, Prometheus and Covenant, it strayed too far from the established formula. Whereas this, it is a homage to earlier entries, and it will please longtime fans, no doubt, but it can border on being predictable. Dialogue also veers into cliched stereotypes, and the cast do their earnest in delivering those lines, and it does compensate a lot for it, but it does feel rather formulaic. Now onto the effects, and this is where alienromulus truly shines in its special effects and its visual design. The look of the mining colony Jackson Star looks stunning and believable. It's not nice and shiny, it's grimy, it's dirty, it's got a yellowish stained, worn look to it, which I really enjoyed because these are working class people that we're dealing with. We don't want to see, nice, clean, shiny. We want dirty and gritty. The space station setting is quite the contrast to that. Being Weylandyutani, it is quite nice and sterile almost. When it's crashing into the rings, that looks phenomenal. Like, that just looked absolutely mesmerizing. The facehuggers and the xenomorphs are back and they look freaking awesome. They are the ones that we know and love. They're the human ones. These aren't the ones that we saw in Prometheus, and that was, as I said before, that's the worst one that I've seen, that one at the end. The ones in Covenant, the neomorphs, and then the final xenomorph, it was okay, but these are the ones that we know and love, and they look amazing. The only downside for me was the offspring. It is an interesting design. It felt to me they were almost redoing the newborn from Alien Resurrection, but it just didn't work for me. And this is me personally. I prefer my xenomorphs to be the xenomorph kind. I don't mind if they do. I'd love to see this. In the comics, they took on somewhat different forms, like if the facehugger attached to a different, not a human, like to another animal. I'd love to see more of that. That would be really cool. But to me, the newborn just didn't work. It looked like an engineer, which was elongated. It just looked weird. But that's me. Rewatchability. Will I rewatch this one? This is a stunning film to look at. The sets, the effects, they all make a visually impressive film. But just on those aspects, it's not enough to draw me back to rewatch it. At least not too often anyway. I did enjoy those aspects of it. I thought they looked great. The special effects, no doubt. The directing, all good. The cast do a good job. However, their characters, I just did not like some of their characters. And it doesn't make me want to rewatch it. I couldn't relate to them. Maybe it's because they're too young. They seem very young. And if you look at the Alien film, most of the Aliens films, they do have an older cast. This is probably the youngest cast. And I get that's part of the story because they want to leave what they've grown up in. They want more. I get that and I like that. But yeah, I'll rewatch it, but I'd rather go back to the original. Final verdict. Alien Romulus is a visceral, atmospheric, and sometimes nostalgic return to form for the franchise. Though it doesn't reinvent the wheel, its blend of practical effects, taut direction, and strong lead performances do make it a must-watch for anyone who loves horror in outer space. Overall for a score, Alien Romulus gets a 7.5 out of 10. And there you have it. That is my review of Alien Romulus. Have you seen this film? If you have, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below, because I'm keen to hear your thoughts on it. I know a lot of people are fans of the original Alien, and how does this stack up against it? Yeah, is it good? Is it bad? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, we're almost at the end of the Alien franchise. We have 2 more to go. Yes, I will be looking at Aliens vs. Predator and Alien vs. Predator Requiem. So stick around for that, because that's bound to be a barrel of laughs. Anyway, look, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please do hit that thumbs up button. It'd be much appreciated. It helps with that whole YouTube algorithm thing. And if you've listened to me dribble on about these Alien films so often, or if this is your first time watching, hit that subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell, so that way you're notified every time I do release a new review. Obviously, we've got 2 more Alien films, and we're moving on to another franchise. And I am really looking forward to this one, mostly. We've also got Trashy Tuesdays. They're a lot of fun. There's some trashy films on the block this month, and more to come, because there's a lot of trash out there. Anyway, look, before I dribble on too much, thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.